Fully Threaded Radio, episode 188.
Bottom line, if we walked in and somebody had $3 million in inventory and they really could do the same job with $2 million, we were putting $1 million back in the owners or in the company's pockets. And that's where it started for us.
Similar to a lot of industries, I think automotive is pretty good about forecasting, what they're going to make in a year and so forth. And the aerospace, Airbus and Boeing, they're fairly good at it as well. But it seems like, the military and all the supporting pieces that go into that, military or commercial plane or some of the defense, products that we make here in the U.S., the forecasting isn't all that great.
And now for something completely different.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH Sourcing Network. If you're in the industrial threaded fastener game, this is the podcast for you. Sometimes we even mention words like trilobular, and you know exactly what we're talking about. You've clicked on the right podcast, and we're so glad you did. Hi, everyone. Eric Dudas here. And the co-host of Fully Threaded is with us as well. He's lifetime honorary Texan and fashion maven, Brian Musker. Hey, Bri, you doing all right?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm a little panicky, getting ready for the show in a few days. Okay. You got me muddled up with a number of other people. I am not the fashion maven, okay?
Well, I knew you'd bite on that one. Au contraire, that shirt you wore to the NCFA social recently, man, that thing was out of sight. So in my book, you're a fashion maven, but that's okay, because we have a completely different view of that, and we were dressed quite differently, too, for that event as well, if you'll remember.
Yes, I do know that.
And the show that you're talking about prepping for now, of course, is the Nashville show. We're going to be dropping this episode 188 of Fully Threaded Radio just before we leave for the Fastener Fair USA 23 out there in Nashville. Some of you will probably listen on the way down, maybe some even during the show, and then most of you will be hearing this afterward. But either way, we're really glad you're here. Thanks again for being here. It's another well-stocked show, Bri. This time we launch things off with a conversation with Matt Boyd of Parker Fasteners. Ever wonder about a mil-spec martini? Well, at the Aerospace Hardware Sales Association event, which happened recently, we're going to compare how completely different in some ways that is to some of our more industrially inclined fastener events, namely the NCFA Social, which also happened during the same week.
Right.
Matt's got an interesting perspective on that, and our conversation touches on all kinds of related issues. It's a good way to kick off the episode. The feature segment today is a conversation with INxSQL Software president and founder Bob Reynolds as they celebrate 20 years, and along with them, it's Marine Fasteners CEO, Dee Ward. Now, many of you know that Marine Fasteners has been a long time user of INxSQL, and Bob and Dee compare notes on the journey, and we take a look at the way that tech is influencing a lot of things that are going on in the industry these days.
Yes, they'll have lived through a few changes in the way computers are even used, actually.
That's true. Again, another example of things being completely different than they used to be.
Yeah.
On the Fastener News Report, AFC Industries VP of Sales, John Kovatch, joins Mike McNulty. If you haven't seen the recent FDI report, oh boy, the FLI really made a splash this time. John and Mike talked that one over. And then Mike looks back at the recent Taiwan Fastener show. That's a big one. A lot of people in this audience headed out there, or people from their companies did. That's the Fastener News Report. And on the show within a show that has become the Fastener Training Minute, Carmen Vertullo talks about the test within a test. specifically rotation capacity testing.
Okay.
You never know what he's going to come up with. And on this one, he's asking for your input or a follow-up, I guess. You're supposed to contact Carmen or tap him on the shoulder one way or another. Let him know you want to know what a TBRW is. He's asking you to ask him. Fully threaded listeners, let's let him know that you heard his request. TBRW, what is it? Ask Carmen.
Wow. Even I have to worry about that, dealing with all the abbreviations I do. Hell.
Well, you should ask him.
I will.
And right now, I'm going to ask you to run down our list of fine partners for this episode.
Right. So I can't tell if any of our sponsors actually have these TBRWs, but you can go up to them and ask them at the show, okay? The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Bright and Best International, Gerbil Fasteners, and Star Stainless Screw Company. Bright and Best International, tested, tried, and true. Gerbil Fasteners, quality the first time. Star Stainless Screw Company, right off the shelf. Also sponsoring Fully Threaded Radio are Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Fair USA, INxSQL Software, J-Land Franco, Parker Fasteners, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, Worth Industry North America, and Solution Industries, home of Solution Man. So think of these sponsors next time you're trying to find some fasteners, okay? Think of them first. That's how you pay them back. So we thank all of our fasteners, and many of which we'll see in a few days in Nashville.
It's going to be good. The energy's really building for Fastener Fair this year. Thank you, sir. And we look forward to seeing you there too, or hearing from you. And the email address is ftr@fullythreaded.com. Please reach out. Let us know what's going on. Speaking of email, Bri, I just received one from Rosa Hearn over there at Brighton Best. Thanks to her for making sure that our contest winners received their ironclad gloves. Knowing her, she overdid it, and they got a couple of pairs. I don't exactly know what she sent, but she always does such a great job. Thank you, Rosa, for handling that.
Yes. Hopefully she's in Nashville too. Usually is.
Oh, yeah, she's probably going to be there for sure. And at the recent NCFA event in Cleveland here, I think this one was courtesy of GH3, although he could not come to the event this year for some reason. He was stuck in Chicago. But Bill Davis handled the drayage, and they brought this ginormous hand chair with an ironclad placard on it in the corner, and it was a photo op, basically, is what it was, a big hand prop. And yeah, I got a couple photos with it. That was kind of noteworthy. So
yeah,
they spare no expense. Although, interestingly, I didn't see a glove large enough to cover that hand.
Right. I did not either.
How many XLs would that have been? I don't know, a lot.
Right.
So we're going to jump right into the conversation with Matt Boyd on the other side of the break. And I want to set it up a little bit because we really dive right into the conversation and didn't do a very good job of explaining exactly what the bash that he's talking about is all about. And as it turns out, a lot of people in this audience are probably not familiar with the Aerospace Hardware Sales Association simply because it's a niche, really, and a lot of our listeners just don't play in that one. But it's an interesting one to be aware of, and this conversation really maps it all out. But this event took place the day after the NCFA Social out in California, and the website for it is thebash2023.com. I mean, that's how prolific this thing is. They don't even really name it in the URL. It's just the bash.
Right. So people know it. Also, it's a fairly big part of the industry, given the defense budgets, okay?
Dollar-wise, that is absolutely true. And it's concentrated in the West and the Southwest a little bit, but in that way, it's a little bit different from what most of us are doing as well. Good thing to be aware of, though, again, that's why we decided to have the conversation. And the other thing is we kind of got right into the talk with Matt, and I kind of sound a little abrupt on that by saying, yeah, we weren't really planning on it. Actually, we were planning on it. What I meant by that was Originally, we'd intended to gather a whole bunch of sound from the NCFA and also from this bash. And when we hit the ground out there, both of us respectively, we just, I guess we were remiss in our duties. And so it wound up just being a conversation without the sound. But don't worry, everybody. We will not let that happen when we make it out to Nashville. Courtesy of Lynn.
Right. The lady with the microphone.
That's right. And the golden pipes. I hope she's all tuned up, Bri.
Right. And just watch Vic from Cambridge try and sidestep and avoid Lynn when she comes up with the microphone, okay?
He's a master at it. Fortunately, that's not our problem, as we will demonstrate when we return from these messages, which won't take but a second. Thanks for listening to the podcast, and we'll talk to you in a moment. It's Fully Threaded
Radio.
2 men, 1 server, a fastener dog, and a stunning lack of more lucrative alternatives. It's Fully Threaded Radio.
Brighton Best International stocks one of the largest and most diverse lines of construction, industrial, safety, and consumable products in the world through our preferred Ironclad and U.S. Anchor brands. We are committed to providing high-quality products to help get the job done right. Ironclad gloves are the industry leaders with more than 100 task-specific, high-quality PPE gloves covering cut, impact, cold, heat, water, abrasion, grip, and dexterity. Receiving the 2018 Occupational Health and Safety Award for New Product of the Year. With our trained sales team members, competitive pricing, 20-plus national warehouses, and next-day service to all major population centers, BBI is committed to bringing quality, innovation, and safety to each and every job site.
Gerbil Fasteners has consistently increased its stock inventory in Houston, Texas, as well as focused on developing new, innovative battery-powered cordless tools to improve industry efficiency. Our company's strategy is to provide a level of quality and innovation that stands out among the rest. If you are interested in being part of a brand that is revolutionizing the industry, make sure to contact Gerbil Fasteners today to see what we have to offer. Gerbil Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Stainless Dan here, coming to you from Star Stainless. Star quality is more than products, just the way Wayne wanted it to be. It's simple. We're Star.
You know your screws and your brews. That's why now there's a beer brew just for the fastener industry. That's right. You drove all day to make that call. The beer you'll pour, it must be tall. Yeah. Old rusty bowl. Yeah. You sold those screws and bolts and nuts, and now it's time to fill your guts, that's clear. Old rusty boat. Yeah. Forget about cold filtered. Old Rusty's cold-headed for fastener people just like you. It's the beer that could have made Rockford, Illinois famous until we had to start importing some of the pure 100% natural ingredients that go into every batch. It's got that full threaded flavor, but with a third less oxides, so you can keep enjoying Old Rusty long after the warehouse or show floors close down for the day. That's also why Old Rusty's available in quarter kegs and now in convenient pallets too. Keep it flowing, house. Old Rusty Bowl.
Hey, this is Clayton Allen from Buckeye Fasteners in Cleveland, Ohio, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you. And this time we had something set up that we thought we'd be doing to open up this episode. But instead, we have Parker Fastener Senior Manager Matt Boyd with us. He's hopefully going to help us provide some of the equivalent of Fastener podcasting raw meat that you know and love, everybody. Hey, Matt.
Hello. Very nice. We're forging the future over here in Buckeye, Arizona.
That's what you do. That's what you do. Well, looking over our shoulder, not talking about the future for a second, we in the fastener industry just passed two really momentous occasions. This is May 4th and 5th, back-to-back events. The one that everybody who listens to this podcast knows about was the NCFA Distributor Social, an annual event. That's not one that you and your guys usually attend. Yeah, I may have seen you out there, but the other one happened the next day out in California, and I know you did attend that one. We're going to talk about it. That was the Aerospace Fastener Bash. You made it back.
Yeah, it was quite the trip. I came out the day before, did a presentation for a customer, had a dinner with another, and spent a little bit of the day working, and then it was full bash from 6 until about midnight.
Yeah, so for people who aren't familiar with this event, this is something that we've been aware of for quite a while. I think actually years back we had Rebecca Day of Exact Fasteners on with us. She's with a company that does a lot of aerospace. She let us know what a bash this thing is. And of course, we've never made it out there. So help listeners who might not be familiar with it understand a little bit about what we're talking about here. What's the size, what's the decor, and so forth.
Yeah, you got it. So I myself have only been attending the bash since about 2016, 2017 timeframe. And, some of the folks that have been attending much longer than me go, oh, this is nothing compared to what it used to be. But, essentially it's the aerospace and defense fastener industry getting together. And a good portion, I'd say even over half the industry is located in the California or Southwest United States. So it's always been in the Long Beach or San Pedro area in California. And it's just everyone that, from rivets to screws like us, distributors, the processors, the people that do the drilling or the patchwork or the plating, they all get together and just have a good time. And it's not that different from, the MWFA or Pac West, what they put on and what they do. It's just the aerospace and defense folks all get together and kind of let their hair down for a night.
Yeah, well, I could see that, but wearing very, very upscale clothing, I can see here on LinkedIn. You posted out there, and it looks a little bit different than some of the events we usually attend.
There's always a theme. So it's been superheroes before. It's been like a Harley Davidson type theme in years past. This year it was Hollywood. And, we were all, the Parker Fasteners team, all 5 of us were going to do like the Sandlot or League of Their Own type of a look. And we started asking around with our customers, and no one was really dressing up as a character theme from a movie. They were all just going to go like with the bow tie.
To the Academy Awards.
Exactly. The Tonys or whatever. So,
everyone wants to break out the bling.
Yeah, exactly. So quickly we had to change course and, just wear our suits. And the initial goal was to have a bow tie, but, just to be frank with you, I was just too busy to stop and buy one on the way in.
So you definitely have to see, if you're in the aerospace or defense, you have to be dressed up in order to meet your clients. A colonel or in the Army or a Commodore in the Navy doesn't expect someone to wander in jeans.
Well, Brian, I have to tell you, my one of my first or second years, I ignored the theme, and I just went regular, just regular dress that I typically dress up. And man, I was the butt of many jokes.
Big mistake, huh?
Oh yeah, I think it was the Harley themed year, and there was a few folks that made light of it. So. After that, you kind of learn from it. You go, well, whatever the theme is, you have to participate.
That makes me think of last episode when, who was it that we had on, Bri, who was kind of ribbing us a little bit about it was Robinson. he was kidding me that at the distributor social, since it was on the 4th, may the 4th be with you. And man, am I glad we didn't come in stormtrooper outfits.
Right. So then at this bash, do people drink beer or they drink like high-end drinks? They sit around sipping whiskeys and things like that?
Well, if you notice in one of those pictures, one of the pictures that we have there, Michelle and Sal from Century Fasteners, they were holding up their drinks with Parker Fasteners koozie. So we did sponsor the first full hour of the event with free drinks, and then you got a complimentary koozie with your drink. And that, for us being the younger guys, in the group, being 11 years old, and this batch has been going for well over, 20 plus years. We see it as an opportunity to get our name out and make sure, folks know who we are. Believe it or not, out of the 120 to 150 people that were there that night, there's still some folks that don't know who we are. So we take that opportunity to get our name out. But however, we did not get our name on the luge that was there. So, Brian, do you know what a luge is?
I thought it was a thing that you slide down the slopes and.
Yeah, we're talking Winter Olympics, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's close. It's when you're talking drinking sports, that would be a big frozen sculpture with the company that sponsored it, and you pour the drink at the very top of it, and then it goes down this little chute, and then you got to have your mouth in a certain area to catch whatever's coming down the chute.
Okay, so I'm getting the picture here. So even though there are some differences in the fastener industry, and this is certainly a niche that's not played in by a lot of our usual listeners, there's something thematic here developing that unites us all.
Heavy drinking.
Yeah, right. So having said that, then tell us about the mil-spec martini.
Yeah, so Brian and Eric were asking me in advance of our interview here. Hey, what makes a common fastener anything different? And the analogy that I used to kind of get the point across was that the military has literally put a part number on every single thing that they consume. And one of those things would be a martini. There is a MS part number out there for a martini. And, if any, social functions are going on, they literally give the bartender a recipe of what they expect with their martinis. And it goes all the way from the types and measurements of the vodka or the mixers, and all the way down to, how you shake it and everything else. So there's chocolate chip cookie, MS part numbers, drinks. So, there's really not a whole lot of difference, when you look at a commercial part versus a military aerospace part. They don't look all that different, but, the secret is in the paperwork and being able to provide, very detailed objective evidence that you've met all those MS requirements and all the mil detail expectations of the part. That's what truly makes part a military aerospace qualified part or just a commercial part.
Plus, they cost $125 a pop, right?
Well, the commercial folks are consuming a lot more than the military aerospace folks are. But some of these parts do get up into higher quantities. But yeah, there's a lot of requirements as far as DFARS and ITAR and QSLM or QSLD has gone away, but that still doesn't null the fact that, there's a lot of special criteria that you have to meet, which, does raise the price.
Now, does the requirement still exist? I was under the impression that they removed the requirement for US-only supplied fasteners in the militaries, particularly the Navy. So, no?
Ooh, maybe in a one-time situation where there's something that wasn't really available. But to my knowledge, that was a infrastructure bill, I believe, where they were doing a lot of public works for sewer and water and all that kind of stuff. And they still practice that if they can't, and there's a criteria of percentage of cost and availability and so forth. But when it comes to the military, I am not aware of any kind of alternatives to that, just because with commercial parts, you're holding, all kinds of different things together. But more times than not, it's not going to cause life or death type results. But when it comes to the men and women serving our country, we want to make sure that we provide them with the highest quality part that has all the, documents to prove it.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that you do, but I was under the impression that a set of destroyers that were built were using some of the bolts in them, cap screws actually, were not made in the United States. And I was under the impression at some stage that there were 4 destroyers disabled in the Pacific with bolts that had broken. They turned out to be actually not the correct grade of steel.
Yeah, we've had some direct communication, and we've worked directly with the United States Naval Department, and those folks are really serious about their fasteners. So if that did happen, I'm sure they learned from it and moved on from making those kinds of mistakes. But yeah, we currently do quite a bit for them now, and they're very, very strict. With how they do things and how they source their materials. But then again, Brian, I'm 41 years old and depending on when that happened, it very well could have happened. And back then I was in college, not really paying a whole lot of attention to the fasteners.
Right. It wasn't quite when you were in college. I believe it was about 12 years ago. I knew I was in lead and I found out somehow. Okay.
I got you.
Well, you're wise beyond your years, Matt, so sometimes we forget your youthful age. And yeah, it's true. I mean, it might have happened before you were really playing the game.
It always seemed to me absolutely plain stupid that you would ever source any fasteners for any military vehicle, be it a helicopter or a ship or a plane, from another overseas country that you might be at war with someday. It just seemed crazy to me. First thing they do is shut down supply.
Same concept goes to our chips that we use for, our defense industry. Just kind of watching the news, not, having any of those chips made in the United States. And, oh, by the way, the majority of them come from Taiwan, the country that's in, some, future potential danger with China.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, we have TSMC getting built here in Arizona, and we have quite a bit going on in the semiconductor industry because of, I guess, being caught with our pants down potentially.
Oh, yeah. Right.
So what was the mood in the room? I mean, you must have taken the temperature of that market and what's going on with the industrial side. How do you compare it?
Well, I think we're definitely nice and busy in this industry as our own numbers, prove. And going to the bash, there was a lot of optimism for the short and near term futures. But and I'm going to speak, for our situation. And I think a lot of domestic fastener manufacturers are in the same boat. Coming out of COVID, it's been difficult for some of our secondary suppliers to really keep up with the demand. Similar to a lot of industries, I think automotive is pretty good about forecasting what they're going to make in a year and so forth. And the aerospace, Airbus and Boeing, they're fairly good at it as well. But it seems like, the military and all the supporting pieces that go into that, military or commercial plane or some of the defense, products that we make here in the U.S., the forecasting isn't all that great. And so we've seen a nice demand increase in business in this sector of our industry here in the U.S. Without a whole lot of forecasting. So we're having a lot. Some of our raw material suppliers are having a hard time keeping up. I know like drilling fasteners has really been a bottleneck for a lot of companies and a lot of our customers. And just finding, it seems like we're always looking to expand our secondary approved supplier list just because of the fact that, we're sending quite a bit of product out along with, kind of everyone else in the industry. And it seems to be a bottleneck, just being able to get good, quality work done once it leaves your facility and trying to get it back home to qualify it and ship it out to your customers is a challenge. So everyone in that group last week had a very similar sentiment. lead times are going out because the demands are higher, and it's caught certain people in the industry flat-footed a little bit. And, I think we're all just trying to do our best to keep up and keep everyone supplied and happy.
Well, of course. So, but the aspect of the forward-looking sentiment being what you said, optimistic, I mean, that's completely different to what we're having. So just to clarify, how many people in the room do you think, or what percentage overlap between, the NIFS side of the world and then the aerospace fastener bash side of the world? How many would you say are overlapping, playing both games?
I would say 25% of the room, maybe up to a third of the room, of play in both markets.
Oh, yeah.
But, not that many. I know, Century Fasteners, they'll sell commercially. Indie Industries and Nylock were there. They sell, commercial parts as well as the mill detail, the patches and so forth. And, but a good, the rest of the room, they just stick in aerospace and defense, and that's all they do. And, some of them have been doing it a long time, and they can rattle off the numbers right off the top of their head. And they know what they're talking about. And it's just, in our commercial world, when someone's talking about a socket head cap screw 1/4-20x1, that's exactly what you call it. I need a 1/4-20x1 socket cap and alloy black ox. But in the military and aerospace world, it's an NES 1352-4-12, and that's the part number. So you don't fully give the description. You just give the part number, and everyone in that room who knows that part knows exactly what it is, no problem. So it's the little things like that. And when you meet someone new in the industry, they'll ask you what parts do you make, and they don't want to hear, I make socket caps, and I make pan heads, and I make hex cap screws. They want you to rattle off the NES 1101s, NES 1189s, 1190s, 1351s and 2s, and A0069s. That's how you talk in that room. It's not how you talk when you go to, MWFA or PacWest.
Right.
So there's kind of a little bit of an elitist feel to it, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's a little closer. It's a more closed group of folks. I remember, my first couple trips, being a complete outsider and kind of, seeing someone I knew and just kind of clinging to them, like, hey, I know you, Carmen, come here, we're going to hang out together. And
right.
So there is those situations where, it does take a while to kind of get in there and really get to know people. And, we're still getting to know people. One of the largest distributors in the business just started doing business with us last year. And I've only been chasing them around for about, 6 or 7 years, before they gave us our first shot. But that's just, that's how it is, where I feel like NFDA and just the commercial side of our industry, they're a lot easier to kind of warm up to and get to know. And, even if you don't have a product to sell them, they're still, pretty welcoming. And not to say that the aerospace and defense guys aren't. It just takes more time to warm up to them. That's all.
So were these people the suppliers to the aerospace, or would you have any of the people who are the purchasing agents for companies like Electric Boat, or would they be there?
No, I didn't see any end users there. It's kind of a tight-knit group of distributors and manufacturers and processors.
Okay.
So it's pretty tight, and there is a limit. I think they had 150 tickets that they sold, and once they sold out, that was it. That was all that was coming. And so in our industry, you get the invite via email, and, you better sign up that day or next day, or there's a chance that you can't get in. Similar to Mr. Poor Carmen Vertullo, didn't jump on it right away, and he couldn't get a ticket.
Oh,
I know.
Yeah. Yeah. Of all people, well, you're dealing with an elite group when he can't get in.
Our own Carmen Vertullo, NFDA Man of the Year.
Wow.
Couldn't even get into the bash.
Wow.
Actually, we also found out you're part of the mentor leadership group, the Fastener Expert Mentor Group.
That's right. Whatever I can do to assist Carmen and his efforts.
Good for you.
Yeah, we hosted him a couple weeks ago, and he ended up leaving with a bunch of testing equipment that we don't use. So it was kind of funny. He was coming in during that Pac West event we had in Scottsdale and left with a big suitcase full of stuff.
Well, that's what he does. He's good at picking up what one man gathers, what another man spills. Isn't that what somebody once said?
One man's trash is another man's treasure.
Well, it also explains a lot, too, because I know he was really hoping to go to that event, and then he almost switched gears and wound up coming to the NCFA. But another thing came up, and he wound up kiboshing both of those, so he didn't hit either of those events. Well, we'll hear from Carmen later in the episode, though, folks. Don't worry. We do let him on to Fully Threaded anytime, no ticket required.
You're not sold out, huh? Okay.
No, we don't have that problem, okay?
Well, I just started things off on this segment about talking about completely different, than we originally had anticipated. But what we talked about doing first was doing a whole bunch of on-the-floor interviews at the social, and you were going to pick some up over at the Fastener Bash, and we were going to compare and contrast. As it turned out, both of us got so engrossed in our, what do we want to call it, Matt, work there? That,
socializing, yeah.
Those never happened, and Lynn couldn't make it out this year, so we were short an interviewer.
I had all the intentions in the world. I had certain people that I knew would give the episode a lot of pop, and especially after a few pops, and
right.
It just did not work out. We walked in and they had a photo booth, and we went right to the photo booth, and then after that photo booth, it was just like nonstop.
Right,
and I lost track of time.
Well, it says a lot that they have this thing on Friday night. Notice most of the ones that we attend seems to happen always on Thursday nights. So they know what they're doing over there.
Oh yeah, you definitely needed an extra sleep, after this one. But overall, it was a really good event. I wanted to come on the podcast just to kind of, share, what the other side of the industry is up to. Like I said, we do business with both sides, commercial, industrial, and the military and aerospace industries. We like being diversified. And, sometimes either group will say, oh, you're spending time with those or, that group or the other. But there's a time and place where, there's always fluctuations in business, and we try to have a toe on each side in order to just, be in a good position for whatever the economy does. And with the state of affairs internationally, being in defense is really a good thing right now. And with air travel continuing to be in high demand, Boeing and Airbus are definitely starting to pick back up. So it really helps being on that side of it. And, but I'll say that our commercial business is not dead. We're not what we were last year with it, but it's okay. We like being diversified and just kind of taking the waves on as they come to us. And it's always been good to us. And we're, a high quality manufacturer. If anyone's ever in Arizona, I doubt anyone will want to come here in 118 degree weather in the summer, but our doors are always open to have people like Eric come in and take a tour and learn about what we're doing. And there's a lot of exciting things going on. And in a few months, I'd like to be invited back and share what we've accomplished, since I was on.
Well, you've definitely got that invitation. Again, here's one where we're always going to welcome you on board. Matt Boyd, Parker Fasteners, they're forging the future over there. And speaking of the somewhat near-term future, we've got just the event to use as an excuse to get you back on here, Matt. You know what I'm talking about, coming up in August. Hope you're doing a little training for that, working off some of those calories you've been building up. And that, of course, is the Rugged Nuts.
Yeah, and super excited about that. That was a lot of fun last year. I just got the MWFA little note in the mail, and I saw we're preparing for the bed build that Sunday, the mud run on the 19th, and looking forward to just a really good week connecting with our customers who are going to plan on attending that in the Chicagoland area.
ParkerFasteners.com. Awesome. All right, Matt. Well, we will see you out there for sure. And of course, we have a bunch of opportunities ahead of that. So thanks for being here at this moment. We'll see you soon.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Eric.
Hey, mate.
My name is Ashley Parker. I am a member of the sales team at Parker Fasteners out here in Buckeye, Arizona. Parker Fasteners is a quality manufacturer of fasteners such as aerospace, military, commercial, and much more. They could be something that you put in a vehicle, in your eyewear, in computers, and much more. We actually just experienced a 40% growth just in last year. Here at Parker, we take pride in the quality of our product. Doing so, we want every employee to take pride in the product. So we take the time to show you, teach you everything there is to know about screws. It's actually kind of a fun industry. It's a growing industry. The possibilities are endless. Parker Fasteners is forging the future for many years to come, and I encourage you to be a part of that.
We all know this is about winning the war on notebooks. We can't do that without the ability to offer hard-to-find metric fasteners, manufactured to ISO and DIN standards. Delivered fast, faster, or as fast as your star-spangled man with a plan. Every quote you request, Eurolink fulfills. Help keep America's workers armed and ready with any metric fastener in the multiverse. With Eurolink, you get what you want when you want it. Eurolink, hard-to-find metric fasteners, delivered.
Precision, efficiency, durability. J.L. Franco has been a trusted name for the finest lock nuts worldwide and across North America for over 40 years. J.L. Franco keeps projects on track, on time, and on budget, providing self-locking lock nuts and critical bolting components for applications in aerospace, energy, military, rail, mining, industrial, and many other sectors where reliability and high performance are essential. Learn more about J.L. Franco online at www.jlanfranco.com, and don't miss our booth at Fastener Fair USA. J.L. Franco, lock nuts for critical bolted joints.
This is George Hunt III from Brighton Best International, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you, shadowboxing the apocalypse.
Oh, I don't think we're that close to it, okay? I hope not.
Well, not before Nashville, at least.
Not for many years afterwards, at least.
Well, again, completely different. But that's okay. This is the news segment, everybody. It's a big favorite of a lot of people. Mike McNulty will be here momentarily, along with John Kovatch of AFC Industries to talk about the FDI. No apocalypse there. No sign of it. No, sir. Well... In this slot last episode, we brought you some golf results. Specifically, the Mel Kirshner Memorial happened about a month back or so, and the winner was misreported. Now, this happened, it's actually unfortunate because, well, we'll just cut to the chase. The winners of this year's Mel Kirshner, which were reported by us as third place winners, should rightly have been Rob Big Country Reynolds of INxSQL Software, long overdue for a win. Brian Wheeler of Star Stainless, Edgar Huerta of Pacific Warehouse Sales, and Jack Seiler of SGS Supply. Congratulations, gentlemen. And when we read them as third place, we said it was very strange that on LinkedIn they were shown holding up the first place trophy. But there was a typo somewhere along the line, so we misread their results. And all I could say is your time came, gentlemen. Good job.
Right, and it caused confusion for us too because we had to re-record something because even we couldn't quite work out how would they be holding up first place trophies if they came third.
Yeah, well, anyway, that straightens it all out, and these things do happen. So there you go.
Good.
The news segment of the podcast is brought to you, as it has been for all this time, by Volt Industrial Plastics. And the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Global Fasteners, and Star Stainless. Yeah, I'm thinking Brian's short game was pretty good because you know that all the drives probably were big countries.
We don't know. We've never seen Brian play golf. He may be excellent. Well, he's clearly good or they wouldn't be holding a trophy up, okay?
Well, that's true. We're just like a dog with a bone here. I don't know the other two gentlemen either. They're probably very good golfers.
Right.
Couple other tidbits here before we cut over to Mike McNulty. Got an email here from the Fastener Training Institute. Our own Carmen Vertullo will be hosting an online seminar. This is coming up on May 25th, and it's all about hydrogen embrittlement. Yeah, you thought an episode might go by without a mention of that scourge. Well, you were wrong. This is one to pay attention to, and I've noticed they have group pricing for this as well, so it's something to take a look at. Get out to fastenertraining.com, hop on this webinar. They've got a full schedule of all their live webinars that the Fastener Training Institute offers there as well. This one about hydrogen embrittlement, though, it should be right at the top of your must-do list.
No doubt you'll be attending that, being about your favorite subject, hydrogen embrittlement.
We're going for the group pricing, Bri. The whole FCH team will be there.
Right, okay. we can all be equally ginned up on hydrogen embrittlement.
It's a great feeling. Almost as good as the feeling of really just utter strangeness that I got when I saw this headline. And then we'll cut to the news because this is a real gooder. From Yahoo Finance, headline, "The Chevy Bolt doing so well, they decided to kill it."
Yeah, I know.
So a long time back, we reported about the Chevy Bolt. I mean, let's face it, it's an electric vehicle, which everybody has their own opinions on all that in the first place. But I just, of course, gravitated to the name. You know, they've already had the Volt at this stage. This is the Bolt, B as in boy.
Yeah.
And, how could you not mention it on a Fastener podcast? Well, one thing led to another, and, it's doing great, but they're just not going to make it anymore. The subhead of this piece on Yahoo said, "Taking lessons from Fox News?" ?
Right. Well, we would say that GM has not necessarily made great decisions of recently, because they just announced they're also dropping support for Apple CarPlay in their new vehicles, which is definitely going to make me not buy one.
Yeah, that's a little puzzling also. My guess is they're coming out with their own platform for that'll try to do the same thing and probably screw everything up.
Every time a car manufacturer's done that in the past, they've made a horrible interface. That's why Apple CarPlay and Android even existed. Anyway, we'll see. This is about fasteners, not my bitching about how cars interact with phones.
That's okay, Bri. It's predominantly fastener-related enough for me.
Okay.
Anyway, there's a juicy quote here from GM CEO Mary Barra. She told reporters, quote, "We have progressed so far that it's now time to plan to end the Chevrolet Bolt EV production, which will happen at the very end of next year." Apparently, the cover story is they're shifting to the Chevy Silverado EV, which will be an electric pickup. That ought to be a real winner. Sure, that one will go into production for years to come, at least one. All right. Well, things are completely different from the way they should be, but that's okay because it's very thematic for the show this time, and it'll be thematic with the segment title if we pass off to Mr. McNulty now. And, Bri, you're just the man to do that.
Oh, yeah. And now for news about screws that you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Brian and Eric. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. Unregulated migration is rising, COVID-19 is dying, government debt is soaring, corporate profit is surging, political power abuse is continuing, and I am traveling to Nashville to attend Fastener Fair USA, so I am really focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, AFC Industries Vice President of Sales and Marketing, John Kovatch, joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story from Hewitt, as well as newsmaker headlines from AFC Industries, Hillman, Arconic, Howmet, Allstate Fastener, Optimus, KMC, Packer Fastener, Zago, Brainerd Rivet, and more. On the back page report, we're going to talk about Fastener Taiwan 2023. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
When price is a big concern and you don't have high tensile strength requirements to worry about, ever think to yourself, why not plastic? Hey everyone, it's Heidi from Volt Industrial Plastics. Next time you need to find a solution that requires keeping costs as low as possible, give Volt a call and put our team of skilled customer service representatives to work for you. Plastic fasteners can make sense on a wide range of applications that you might not have considered before and provide your customers with big savings. So the next time you have trouble with price and delivery, just think, why not plastic? From everyone here at Volt Industrial Plastics, thanks for another great year. And you know the website, it's voltplastics.com.
Hello.
Hello.
You've been walking the Fastener Show for a while?
Yes. However, I'm wearing very comfortable shoes.
How would you like some Old Rusty Bolt beer?
I'm not a smart man, but Mama warned me about these things.
Well, that's probably because Mama never tried Old Rusty Bolt. Only the finest beverage in the fastener business.
All right. I'll give it a try. This is pretty good. I'm starting to feel funny. Jenny! Something's happening. Whoa. I feel.
Sum of the square roots of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
Old Rusty Bolt, making the fastener world feel smarter, one beer at a time. So how do you feel?
I gotta pay.
I believe he said he had to pee.
The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, proud Fastener Show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt beer, official beer of the traveling salesman.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTION. Solution Industry. We are solution.
Back to the Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for April 2023 was 46.3, a drop from the previous month's result of 48.6, and the fourth sub-50 result in the last 5 months. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, sank to a new all-time low of 37.8 versus 44.3 result in March. 9 straight months of contracting FLIs. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight on these results, we talked to AFC's Industries Vice President of Sales and Marketing, John Kovatch. Hi, John. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you back. You were on just a few months ago at the end of 2022, but now we have worse results. What do you think about the latest FDI and FLI results?
The FLI is the more concerning of the two. I think the FDI is, it's about right. I mean, you're bouncing between the low 50s at the best and mid to high 40s. So 46.3 totally makes sense. 37.8 at the FLI. It also makes sense since we haven't seen, to your point, we haven't seen a 50 since last July. So it doesn't surprise me that that number is low. And look, we're still trying to figure out our footing post-COVID. A lot of inventory, a lot of sporadic demand out there. Customers burning down inventory. We're trying to burn down inventory. I think our election year is coming a year early. It seems we've got plenty of influence coming from the White House as well. So none of this is real shocking. It's still a story that's unfolding for sure.
Yeah, there's always some circus activity going on in the political sphere, but in reality, I think you're right. You mentioned on inventories, like this month, sales, employment, and deliveries were all down, but inventories are inching up. So there seems to be a lot of product in the pipelines there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is, and it's just continues to be drug out. So that certainly has an effect on these numbers.
Yeah, I was just at a conference earlier this week for another industry, and they were talking about, a lot of people double bought or panic bought in 2022, and now they've got all this stuff left over that they have to work through.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Stranquist mentioned it last month, right? We took care of our customers. We made sure they didn't run out, covered their demands, and now we're in this together to try to burn through it. So it's just going to take us a little longer. Lead times have become a little shorter, but that doesn't change the fact that we've got plenty from when lead times were long and it finally showed up.
Well, better lead times is a good thing, I think, overall. So on the last component, pricing, that seemed like it was mixed. What are you guys seeing on pricing?
Yeah, pricing's mixed. But pricing, again, everything goes back to inventory, right? You can't get that lower price until you burn through what you've got, because the inventory sitting on the shelf costs what it costs. Just because steel comes down or some other component comes down doesn't change the fact of what's sitting there. But we are seeing when you do go out for requote, replacement prices are certainly lower than they were when we've got the inventory on the shelf. So pricing's definitely going to be coming down on some of this stuff. The question will be, and I've heard we expect to see a rise again in steel prices. I don't know whose crystal ball that's on. I guess we'll come to find out. But as of right now, we are seeing a little lower prices in the market for futures. Yeah, there was a lot of talk. This conference that I was at was dealing with some, raw material, steel wire and bar and rod, and they're really struggling with the pricing, and then you still have some residual tariffs and stuff like that. So it can all be fixed with investment, but that takes a long time. Yeah, for sure. It seems to bounce up and down just like the FDI has here, but does seem to be trending a little lower. Okay, well, on the FLI, I mentioned that's, maybe an all-time low. So to me, it was a little bit, it going down doesn't surprise me, but I'm surprised it went down so far. But tied into that is the 6-month outlook also got worse. We had 20% of respondents expecting things to be better 6 months down the road, which would take us to the near the end of 2023. 40% expect it to be the same, and then 40% expect it to be worse. So that's probably one of the worst numbers we've seen in a long time. Yeah, people went into the year hoping that by mid-year we'd have a clearer outlook as to what we'd be seeing by the end of the year, and I don't think it's been positive yet. People would hope that maybe they'd see some light at the end of the tunnel, and I just don't think it's there yet. So that number is reflective of that. Well, then on the other side of the coin, we published some sales and income numbers from fastener companies that are publicly traded. People are still making a lot of money. But those are things reported from the first quarter, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's not been a terrible year. I think we're just when you come off of a year with all of the things that we experienced through the recovery of last year, you come into 23 and it's a little bit of a drag because you're used to things being all positive. And remember, we're trying to make up for a lot of lost ground during COVID, and I hate to keep going back to that, but it wasn't a normal business cycle that got us to where we are, right? It was an unnatural event that occurred, and we tried to come out of it, shut things back down, tried to come out of it. So you end up with a lot of turbulence to make up for. So, although I guess on the positive side, I did see that the federal COVID-19 public health emergency ended yesterday. So I guess we're all better now. No, that's good. Yeah. Well, I'm not sad to see it over. Right. I just like to see it acknowledged. Yeah, right. Take responsibility. But and the word you mentioned, turbulence, is a good one. So now we've got, things calming down a little bit. So they're not as gangbusters as they were. So maybe that's a little bit of the, coming down from a high level is not a bad thing. Yeah. So calming down, not necessarily negative, but I think it reflects negatively here because now we're stuck through the process of working through this, and we'll get to the other side of it. I'm confident we'll be good in another 6 months to a year. I think things will be a lot different. All right. Let's move on to respondent commentary. We've got some bunch of comments this time. The first one is, quote, raw material continues to be a challenge, shortage, and cost increases. Overall business is steady with positive short-term outlook for the future. Second one is our sales were down compared to the preceding month, mainly due to short business days. The daily average was actually strong, barring any major disruptions like a debt ceiling fight. I expect the market conditions to be steady. That was reinforced by recent economic presentations at a PAC West meeting, end quote. You didn't happen to go to that meeting, or did you? No, I did not. Okay. I didn't participate. I didn't either, so we can't comment on it. No, we can, but it wouldn't be valid, so I guess we shouldn't. So. Just random speculation. So. Yep. The next comments were more optimistic with some concerns about pricing and margin erosion. Quote, prices have dropped significantly owing to supply chain clear-up and soaring inventories at the master distributor levels. This is coupled with customers slashing inventories in anticipation of a recession.
It's squeezing margins for everyone as suppliers are fighting to turn inventories into much needed cash. And you can quote me on that, end quote.
I guess we just did.
Yeah. It kind of ties in what we're talking about. And then the next one kind of echoes on that. Quote, inventory is still high, but starting to move. Inquiries have yet to pick up from February, March, April. Margins taking a hit as we ship out high-priced product that arrived over the last 12 months. Overseas pricing becoming more competitive, end quote. Anything to add to those?
No, I mean, that's a managing of your customer situation, right? So there's a difference between the distributor, like an OEM distributor like ourselves, and a master distributor. It's a little different spot. When you've got an agreement with a customer, your margins tend not to take a hit as much when you've got that inventory committed. Yeah. So it's unfortunate for those folks who are on the other side of that, because I can understand that being an issue.
All right. Then the last comment, relates to slowing in activity and bookings. Quote, activity is slowing across most sectors, end quote. And then the final comment we have is, quote, April sales 5% below first quarter average and April bookings 10% below first quarter average, end quote. Kind of more of the same.
I think that's very market driven. I've said that last time. I think that's very market driven. We've certainly not seen that across the board. Those places where we have seen it, it's explainable, right, with housing and a couple other things that those markets represent. And then others are...
Yeah, residential housing's really taken a hit. Speaking of that, that'll kind of tie into the next thing you can talk about AFC, but I was watching before we got on, you guys have a company video on your website, afcind.com/about/company-video. So it's a pretty good video, but what I saw, all the different sectors that you guys feed products into. So that probably helps calm things down.
Yeah, it does. And that video, I keep getting told I need to get it updated. So I should probably get that on the list to get done. I think people might be still wearing masks in that video. So
no, I didn't see any masks.
No, good. Okay. We clean that up. But
I saw an American flag in there. So
yep, we shot that a couple years ago, and it needs updated because we have added even more to that. But wow, our diversity and customers, something like I've never seen before. So it definitely helps.
All right. Well, I'll let you tell. Coming up in our news headlines, you guys have 3 acquisitions just in the last month here. So what do you want to tell the listeners about that?
That we're very busy. Above everything else. Yeah, we did. It's exciting. We had a great, you don't go out and find a deal and close a deal in 1 month. These are all ones that obviously were in the hopper, and just timing wise happened to work out to where they hit 3 at once. We purchased QFC with 11 locations out of the Texas and out in the West. Excellent company, a little bit of manufacturing along with them, but primarily a fastener distributor like AFC. We bought EAP Seals over in the UK that will tie on to our TFC business. If you're picking up on the hint, you kind of have to have an acronym. Otherwise, you're not that exciting for us. But
we don't want to talk.
The exception of that is Fastbolt we picked up in New Jersey. Awesome company, great folks down in the Southeast, and also puts us in Canada. So we're excited about that, and they've got a half dozen locations. So yeah, it's definitely been busy, but really great stuff, and really excited what the future holds for AFC. It's just a great place to be right now.
Yeah, well, Fastbolt's not an acronym, but they've merged 2 words, so they kind of
that's right. Fair enough. Yeah.
But I imagine, this is like you said, these things take a long time, and then they all come together. And good to see the positive activity growing the family of businesses there.
Yeah, we're really excited about what's going on here at AFC.
So have you been on the road a lot with all these acquisitions?
Yeah, I have, and that's going to continue for a while as we bring them on board and get out there and meet all the folks. And it used to be a goal I would try to get to every location, but it's no longer possible to do that in a 12-month period. So, but yeah, it's important to get out there, get in front of the people running the business, get in front of the customers, make sure they understand who we are and who they're now dealing with. And that really doesn't change. We don't go in and change the businesses a lot, but it's good for them to understand the capabilities that they now have available to them and the resources that they have and why we do the things we do. So it's a really exciting opportunity to go meet folks.
Yeah, definitely. Now, just to remind the listeners, we are recording this on the Friday before Mother's Day, which is the Sunday before Fastener Fair USA. So this will be posted before the show, and people may be listening to it before or after the show, but we will both be traveling to Nashville pretty soon for the Fastener Fair USA.
Yeah, we will. In fact, I'll be commentating a marketing discussion board on Tuesday, the first day of the show at 10:15. So if you hear this before then, maybe you listen to us on the flight to Nashville. Come by and see us. A few of us will be on stage, and should be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I'm going to check that out. It looks like they got a good slate of exhibitors as well as some good education and business contact panels. So
yeah, and you can't beat Nashville. It'll be a great after party and welcome reception. Nashville's just top of my list for cities in the U.S. So this should be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it'll be a good time for the industry. Good. Well, anything else to close up with on the FDI, FLI, or AFC, all three acronyms we're talking about today?
Yeah, right. It's the acronym show. No, I think we covered it all pretty well. I think the numbers aren't surprising. You just got to go out and run your business and keep doing the things that have kept you successful. Use this as another, just another key to kind of check your compass, and we'll see what the rest of the year holds here.
All right, very good. Well, thanks for coming on the show and giving the listeners your perspective on the fastener industry, and keep up the good work at AFC.
I appreciate being invited, Mike. We'll see you next week. Thanks.
That was AFC Industries Vice President of Sales and Marketing, John Kovatch. The FDI number for April 2023 was 46.3 versus 48.6 in March. The FLI dropped to 37.8, down from 44.3 last time. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. Hewitt has expanded its sales efforts with the addition of a new regional sales manager and new independent sales representatives. John McCall has joined Hewitt as the new regional sales manager for the Northeast region in Ontario, Canada, and he is the 10th permanent addition to the Hewitt distribution support team. McCall began his career in industrial parts and equipment sales 35 years ago as a sales manager for Waha Company. He also worked as a retail consultant at True Value Company, and throughout his career, he earned multiple sales records at Briggs & Stratton Company and CNH Industrial. Hewitt also welcomes Rick and Morgan Rudolph from Rudolph Associates as independent sales representatives. Rick founded Rick Rudolph Associates in 2013 after a nearly 40-year career in the fastener industry, including serving as national sales manager for Precision Socket Screw, owner of New England Bolt, and president of Worth Eastern Fastener. His son Morgan joined the company in 2014, and he earned his certified fastener specialist credentials from the Fastener Training Institute, and he served as vice president of the New England Fastener Distributors Association while working alongside his father. And finally, Sylvie Gagnon joins the Hewitt team from Quebec, Canada, as a new independent sales representative for her region. Her 20-year career includes managerial roles in sales and accounting and work as an independent sales agent of fasteners, bolts, and custom industrial products. Hewitt CEO Timothy O'Keefe believes that these new additions will bring unique expertise and experience to contribute to Hewitt's goal of developing personal customer relationships as a master distributor of industrial fasteners and components and premium lifting hardware. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, AFC Industries acquired 3 companies: Texas-based QFC Industries, UK-based EAP International Limited, and New Jersey-based Fastbolt. FTH Aero acquired BJG Electronics Group. Hillman Solutions opened a new 305,000 square foot distribution hub in Belton, Missouri. UK-based Cooper & Turner is supplying fasteners to Citibank's refurbishment project in London. And Arcana Corporation entered into a definitive agreement to be acquired by funds managed by affiliates of Apollo Global Management. In personnel news, Wagner Finelli has joined Howmet Aerospace as President, Howmet Fastening Systems. Allstate Fasteners welcome Kevin Legato to the ASF team as Shipping Receiving Analyst, Latasha Williams as Inside Sales Account Manager, and Jacob Blyer as a buyer. Altenhoff, Brink & Company appointed Derek Fiedling as Vice President of Strategic Marketing, and it promoted Eric Ashak to Vice President of SPAC Sales. Optimus Solutions appointed Phil Battaglia as Chief Financial Officer. Stanley Black & Decker announced Chris Nelson as COO. Tree Island Steel named Nancy Davies as Interim President and COO. and Krista Osborne of Houston Fastener Manufacturing and Leslie Marquina of Brighton Best International were awarded winners of Wi-Fi's Margaret Davis Scholarships. In milestone and award news, KMC, also known as Kickhafer Manufacturing Company, is celebrating 115 years in business in 2023. Zaga was recognized as a hero of American manufacturing. Packer Fastener marked its 25th year anniversary on May 1st of this year. Gripple celebrated the milestone of producing its 1 billionth fastener. And Brainerd Rivet, a subsidiary of Fastener Industries Incorporated, reached 25 years as an employee-owned company. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International Magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online and in print at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about Fastener Taiwan 2023. The 2023 edition of the Taiwan International Fastener Show, also known as Fastener Taiwan, successfully concluded on May 10th after attracting nearly 300 exhibitors and 10,000 visitors from domestic and international markets, a growth of 7.2% compared to the last staging in 2018 before the pandemic shut down this biennial trade show for the last 5 years. During this year's exhibition, multiple international buyer groups visited from 60 countries or regions, with the top 5 buyers coming from India, the United States, Japan, Germany, and Thailand. The show organizers, the Taiwan External Trade Development Council, and the Taiwan Industrial Fasteners Institute reported that Taiwan is renowned internationally as the Kingdom of Screws, and made in Taiwan fastener products not only feature consistent quality and the latest innovative industrial technology, but also integrate new software and hardware systems to provide high-end applications for many industries, including automobile, medical equipment, aerospace, offshore wind power, and information technology. In addition to the exhibition, the organizers held multiple industry forums, procurement meetings, and the Manufacturers Win podcast, attracting industry experts and scholars. The Global Fastener Forum featured presidents of 3 major fastener distributor associations, including the USA's National Fastener Distributor Association, also known as the NFDA, the Italian Union of Fastener Distributors, and the European Fastener Distributor Association, also known as the EFDA, as well as related experts in several fields. Topics covered included the impact of rising raw material and transportation costs and anti-dumping measures in China, as well as the transformation to low-carbon fasteners, smart manufacturing, electrical vehicles, and solar and wind power fastener applications. Next year, Fastener Taiwan will return to its regular even-year rotation on April 16, 17, and 18, 2024. So on the heels of a successful Fastener Fair Global Trade Show in Stuttgart last month, and in front of 2 promising USA Fastener shows in Nashville and Las Vegas this year, it is good to see that a top Asian fastener show has joined in on the return to normalcy of in-person trade show success and experience. Check out the upcoming June-July 2023 issue of Fastener Technology International Magazine to see some straight-from-the-show reports from Germany and Taiwan. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, corrections, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
Goebel Fasteners has consistently increased its stock inventory in Houston, Texas, as well as focused on developing new, innovative battery-powered cordless tools to improve industry efficiency. Our company's strategy is to provide a level of quality and innovation that stands out among the rest. If you are interested in being part of a brand that is revolutionizing the industry, make sure to contact Goebel Fasteners today to see what we have to offer. Goebel Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
Howdy Howdy, Fastener friends. This is Jake Davis, president of BTM Manufacturing. Often I get asked to clarify our business capabilities. Do we manufacture U-bolts, studs, coffee, anchor bolts, stake rub, per print specials? Well, as most of you have come to find out, the answer is all of the above. We like to have some fun aside from our primary business of custom manufacturing bent wire and threaded products for customers all across the U.S. We partnered with a local Kansas City-based coffee roaster and dreamt up a line of U-bolt blend products, both coffee and a stake rub. Over the past several years, both products have come to fruition. They've become notorious at industry events. Haven't tried them yet? Reach out and we'll include a sample in your next order. BTM Manufacturing and U-Bolt Blend, the perfect match.
Cut the no quotes out of the equation. Eurolink is your go-to resource for uncommon and hard-to-find metric fasteners that others can't even quote. Contact the sales team at EurolinkFSS.com and get your hard-to-find metric fasteners delivered.
Well, hi, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute, coming to you from the Fastener Training Institute in the newly founded Carver Labs in El Cajon, California, your full-source fastener testing resource. Today's Fastener Training Minute comes not from an email, but it comes from something that I myself experienced recently, which was the need to do a special type of test. Not only was it a special type of test, but it was a special test within a special type of test. And that type of test is called a rotational capacity test. It applies to structural bolting that come from ASTM F3125/F3125M. When we return, I'll tell you all about my experience doing this special rotational capacity test and what you really need to know about rotational capacity testing.
At Worth, status quo isn't an option. Worth is a global supply chain solutions provider of fasteners, MRO, and safety products, along with value-added services like kitting and assembly, 3D printing, and engineering assistance. Find out what Worth can do for you at worthindustry.com.
Quality products, quality service, quality customers. That's 3Q Inc., a fastener distributor unlike any you've worked with before. With its unique remote managed inventory stocking programs, wide array of secondary service offerings, and wholly owned cold forming capability, 3Q Inc. has been supporting fastener distributors since 2008. 3Q offers a wide range of 100% American-made fasteners, including ITW SEMS lock washers, as well as specialty and imported parts. Give 3Q a call today to discuss your needs and experience 3Q quality for yourself. 3Q Inc. www.3q-inc.com.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute, talking about rotational capacity testing. The rotational capacity test shows up in ASTM F3125, F3125M. The latest edition is 2022 in an annex called A2. It's at the very end of the standard. And the purpose of the rotational capacity test historically has been to ensure that structural bolting, and these are bolts 1/2 inch through 1.5 inch, high strength bolts, ASTM A325 or ASTM F490, could be safely installed into the steel, and even if they were significantly over-tightened or overturned or over-angled, that the bolt would not be damaged or break. So essentially, the rotational capacity test requires us to put the bolt into a test rig. That would be the Skidmore-Wilhelm bolt tension calibrator, also known as a Skidmore. It measures the load, and then we apply an angle in addition to the amount of angle it takes to bring the bolt to its full tension. And it's a pretty brutal test. It's not just a little bit more. It's like twice as much as you would normally need to tighten the bolt down. Now, historically, the purpose of the test was only to test bolts that were hot dip galvanized and to ensure that the nuts on those bolts that came with those bolts as an assembly, including the bolt, the washer, and the nut, had sufficient lubricity to withstand this over-tightening. And they generally pass. It's a pretty brutal test, but if you're in the business of providing these assemblies that require rotational capacity testing, you want to be sure that the product is well matched. In other words, that you have sufficient ductility in the bolt and sufficient lubricity and also thread tolerance in the nuts, because the hot dip galvanized nuts are over-tapped. And if they're over-tapped too much, you could conceivably end up stripping the threads. So in my special test, we had a customer who had a project on a bridge. And this material was not hot dip galvanized, but it had a dip spin coating on it, zinc-rich dip spin zinc flake coating. I won't say what it is. And some of the parts were not bolts. They were actually studs. So how do you test a stud? It has no head on it. So what we had to do was we had to take the stud, and these were large, 1 1/4 inch parts. So we take the stud, the fully threaded stud, it's about 8 inches long. We screw a nut onto it, and then we drill a hole axially at the nut and the thread interface between the nut and the rod, and we put a pin in it, and that keeps the nut from turning. So we have artificially created a head on this stud. And then we put the stud with the nut on it into the Skidmore. We have a few spacers. We have the washer. We have the nut. We do the test. It does not pass. Boo-hoo. F3125, F3125M allows us, in instances where we cannot pass the rotational capacity test, to use some additional lubrication. And that's what we did in this case. We simply applied my favorite lubrication, which is called TBRW. And I'm not going to tell you what that means, because I want to know if anybody ever actually listens to the Fastener Training Minute. And if you are listening to the Fastener Training Minute, I want you to either email me and call me and tell me that you know what TBRW is, or ask me what TBRW is. But it is a very awesome lubricant, and it solved the problem. And this is a very significant set of bolting. It's going to be used on a bridge. And fortunately, the requirement from F3125 was relatively straightforward, and I was very familiar with it. But sometimes the rotational capacity test will come from somewhere else, such as a state department of transportation or a federal transportation agency. So we have to be careful that we're using the right test. They're not exactly the same, and the reporting can vary, but they achieve the same ends. Now, what's happened recently is all of a sudden we see requirements for rotational capacity tests besides hot dip galvanized A325, which those are the only bolting assemblies that require the rotational capacity test. Now, other bolting products, such as the A490s or F3125s with other coatings or no coatings at all, can be required to be tested by the end user, but we have to specify that on the purchase order. And we will never see an F3125 A490 hot dip galvanized requirement, because at this point in time, those are not allowed to be hot dip galvanized. But these bolting assemblies that we tested were A490. High-strength structural bolting. It was a very interesting test, and it was a fun test, and we actually combined two tests together. There's another test called the pre-installation verification test. We'll talk about that in another Fastener Training Minute, but we were able to combine both of those together and get a good result for the customer. So I hope you learned a few things about the rotational capacity test. Read F3125/F3125M. There's a lot more detail, like how many turns you would, or angle of degrees or turns you would have to turn the nut for the test. It's typically the longer the bolt, the more turns is required. And that's all in the standard. And I could probably go on a lot longer, but I think we'll stop there. And please let me know if you know what TBRW is, or if you want to know what TBRW is. It's a good thing to have in your pocket. This has been Carmen Vertullo with your Fastener Training Minute. Thank you for listening.
Hi, this is Tim Roberto Jr. from Star Stainless Screw Company. You're listening to Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
If you've been listening to the entirety of today's podcast, well, you just heard Mike McNulty and John Kovatch talking about the latest FDI report. And of course, that very dramatic drop in the forward-looking indicator. A lot of things going on. People are, well, I don't know if they're scratching their head, but they're definitely taking notice. So we had already planned on having these next two gentlemen talk with us. I figured it's a great time, too, because they're elder statesmen in this industry, and they have a lot of perspective they can share with us. We'll ask Mr. Bob Reynolds of INxSQL Software and Dee Ward of Marine Fasteners to hop on. Hi, guys.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Eric. How are you?
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
I've been waiting for this one. You know, I have been talking to both of you individually and together for some time. I was shocked to find out that, well, it's pretty well known that Marine Fasteners is a long time and possibly the first INxSQL Software customer, but actually you guys haven't yet met in person. It was amazing.
Yeah, there's been no crossover. We've had a couple of instances where we were supposed to meet because of circumstances that just didn't work out. But I've talked to Bob many times on the phone and online. We've just never been able to shake hands.
No, but we'll get there one of these days.
Absolutely, one day.
Well, you're both people who have a great rapport, so that's not going to be a problem. And hey, who knows? Nashville's coming up, so there's probably your next chance. Well, let's dive into it. The Fastener Distributor Index report came out. Of course, it's sub 50 these days, and that's not really too hard to figure out, but the sentiment for going ahead is really looking bleak. And Dee, you're out there in the market every day. How are you reading these tea leaves?
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning. I'll put it that way. I don't think it's something to fret over. I don't hide behind rocks when things like this come about. But it is something to definitely take note and give attention to, primarily because we track it month to month over a 6-month, 12-month period. And so you're seeing a downtick in the FDI. So it is concerning, but at the same time, for us, the biggest thing, and this is what I've been really trying to bang into our sales team's head, is diversification. You've got certain markets that are really stabilizing now, coming back to what we would consider pre-pandemic norms. And so we're not going to see what we've seen the last couple of years with the craziness of the mad rush and the production. And in order to mitigate some of those markets, you're going to have to diversify your portfolio and dive into markets that you've not dove into before. So I think that's very important from our seat, is to recognize some of those different verticals to jump into, and how to do that tactfully and how to do that strategically. So when you see some of these markets that fall off, some of the other ones are going to ramp up. So that's our approach. And like I said, it is concerning, but it's not, from our seat, it's not something that we're going to, throw up white flags.
Well, Eric, I can tell you that Dee certainly is a better person to ask about that than me, because I pretty much roundly ignore that information when you send it out to me each month. And I got to apologize for that. But, we have little different indicators we're looking at because, of course, we're not really in the same business as our customers. We're in the business of supporting them. And I will say, though, that we are using new technologies, AI, to do things like allow customers to not have to take an email that comes in or a fax or whatever and type it into the software to generate an order. So automating that process so that even if you have low-tech customers, which happens a lot in manufacturing, right, Dee?
Yeah, a lot.
People, are working on spreadsheets in some cases. You have the capability to say, take that spreadsheet and literally just say, we know what this looks like, pull it in, we'll make it this order, it's got this PO number, and basically look at the screen and scrape off the information and put it in so you don't have people doing it. But obviously a lot has been affected by, without getting into politics, let's say inflation and where we're at today. And, that's not something that we can fix or that Marine Fasteners can fix. So I think sometimes having the blinders on approach works fairly well. I didn't even know enough to even look at those numbers back when I was a young pup. And I continued to grow the business through some of the worst years that, that the fastener industry had, because I guess I wasn't smart enough to figure out that I should have been worried. So.
Oh, you're too modest. Well, thank you for the candor there, though, Bob. And, I kind of suspected as much, and it makes a lot of sense, too, because like you said, really, you're not a fastener distributor. You're a service provider.
Right.
But you do bring to the table a lot of perspective. And also, both of you share this quality, which I was also aware of, that you're both optimists and you're going to keep fighting. We're all swimming in the same ocean. You're going to keep fighting. You're going to keep swimming hard, no matter what size the waves are that are rolling at us. So the method to my madness is exactly as you said, Bob. We're fighting back with technology, aren't we? And you are at the forefront of it. Dee, you were telling me very recently that in your new role as the CEO over there at Marine, you've got a group together. You're calling it Process Improvement Data Analytics Team. And I thought, geez, talking with Bob Reynolds, your ERP platform guy, this would be a good chance to compare notes on, what you're seeing, what your team's doing, and what Bob's providing, maybe what he's got in his pocket to bring to the market.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing the we call them the PIDA team, PIDA, Process Improvement Data Analytics. And so basically, shortly into my tenure here, we had some analysts already on board with us. And one of the things that we came up with is putting them together as a team and calling it the PIDA team, and encompassing not just the data analytics that we need internally and for our customers. I mean, it's becoming more prevalent in our industry, being an antiquated industry. Data analytics is something that has not been at the forefront, but to be able to provide data analytics to our customers is huge for us. And so what we've done is now just combine the data analytics with the process improvements to really allow these 5 individuals who are brilliant minds to come up with these internal processes, the analytics for our customers, to work together as a scrum team where they have different flows, swim lanes every day, every week. And they're just knocking out project after project together. Listen, I was in there the other day, and they're all in an office together, and they started telling me about this project that was going on, and they got into the intricacies of it. And I just had to raise my hand and say, guys, I have no idea what you're talking about. They are like brilliant minds. And so I just let them run with it. Our executive team will pitch them ideas. Our entire organization are free to pitch them ideas, and they just set a project backlog and start tackling them one by one. And it's been absolutely amazing for the last several months.
I'm jealous. It must be good to have people, Dee.
Oh, it's unbelievable. They are incredible.
Hey, for the non-MBAs in the audience, can you enlighten us on the Scrum acronym?
So the Scrum team is, it's a process is what it is. And so basically they have Scrum projects that they allot specific amounts of time to. And you can take one project and divide it up amongst 5 people in certain areas, and they'll estimate how long it's going to take them to cover each portion of the project. So they know that if they've got a project that they're going to have 80 hours in, they can now tell the organization, hey, we'll be complete on this date because we know how many hours it's going to take to get us there. So it works on again, off again. So they'll designate part of their time during the week towards a plethora of projects, and they'll be able to inform the organization when specific projects are going to come to fruition. So it keeps everything in the clear and everybody in the know.
So how do you interface some of the requirements that you identify with, say, a provider like an INxSQL or other tool providers that you're working with?
So basically our director of operations oversees the Scrum team. He is very intertwined with INxSQL and the operation side of it. Automation is a huge push from our side, whether it be internally within SQL or even externally with processes outside that coincide within SQL. And so that's really where our focus has been, and how to intertwine that into our ERP has been huge. So, for example, one of the things we're working on now is completely going paperless in our warehouses. When I came on board years ago, we couldn't have even thought of something like that. But because of little progressions over time, we've gotten to the point where now it's a reality. And so that is something that can come to fruition here in the next I would say within the next year, company-wide for us, to where it's just completely seamless and paperless.
What do you think, Bob? Are we ever going paperless?
That's been a goal for us, for our customers, for quite some time. And depending on depending on which customer we're talking about, the bottom line is that some of them have been mostly there. I think, D, on the side of, the old filing cabinet problem, we took care of that many years ago for you guys.
Yeah, 100%.
You're not making 3 copies of your invoices and filing them numerically by date and by customer number or anything like that. So that stuff's all gone. But, to really truly be paperless, it's a bit of a task. There's no doubt about it. I think, like, for instance, while you have handheld devices in your warehouse, a lot of customers would prefer to print a pick ticket still and look at it and have it in their hands. So that becomes an issue. And when I say customers, in this case, it would be D's employees and or managers that perhaps in the past weren't necessarily open to making some changes. And we have that happen throughout the industry. I mean, just getting somebody to buy a handheld device and put it in their warehouse, these guys were our first. We wrote our warehouse management solution for them. And in adding 400 customers over the years, the bottom line is it's certainly changed, but it adds, extra features and functionality for people and best practices. And they're, grabbing onto a lot of that. And I would say that's because we have a change at the helm, and, D is, pushing this. And Paul, his right-hand man.
Exactly. The beauty of it is that, I'm thinking back even like, 3 and 4 years ago, we were really streamlined, exactly what you said, Bob. I mean, it wasn't like paper after paper and whatever, but a lot of it is just a mental change, a thought process change of it's just change. And so Paul's done a great job. My director of operations has done a great job of really giving some vision to our operations team to accept the change, first of all. And then just make those small incremental changes that are palatable, successful, and get us to a point where ultimately we want to go. And he's done a really great job with that. He's done a great job with working hand in hand with the INxSQL team as well. They have each other on speed dial, literally, where they can just make a phone call and make it happen.
Paul and Brandy and Christy, are talking day in and day out. And that's a part of what we do with our customers in partnering with them. We're not the typical software vendor that drops software off, gets you up and running, and then has their hand out all the time saying, hey, if you'd like to do a little more, we're happy to take some more money from you. Our goal when we started out with Marine Fasteners was to be their software partner, through the life of their organization. And so far, we're 20 years into that. And I would say that we're doing a pretty good job with it.
Yeah, and you've rode that through some pretty stormy seas, too. So, I just got to drop a little memory here, as long as we're kind of flirting with the topic. I went to a Gartner Group conference on document management. And back in those days, they were still working on the open document management standards and all that. For a lot of banking pressures and things were driving all this digital transformation. And a presenter said that the digital office is about as likely as the digital outhouse. And that's because there's always going to be crap you have to put on paper. I got a pretty good laugh out of the audience, but his point was, it's not going to happen entirely, so don't really shoot for it and just hope to streamline using technology, but you'll never get all the way there. And now, and I think you guys believe this as well, we're much closer than people like that presenter ever would have imagined. I think a lot of it is cultural, because now we have a whole generation of digital natives who are in the workforce, and it doesn't scare them in the least as it did with these people who were, hanging around in the 90s and the early 2000s and that. So I think the world is ready for it.
Yeah, and honestly, Eric, a lot of it is exposure, and you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we've got potentially now 5 generations working in an organization. That's crazy.
Right.
So you've got, people 40 years plus working in an organization. You got somebody that's just been hired in 2 weeks into their tenure. That's a huge bridge to gap. But at the same time, giving exposure to our customers and showing them how some of this data works, and showing them how some of these analytics are beneficial to them, really spurs that thought process of the digitalization.
So getting back to this idea of, Bob, you being a little bit outside the industry, but looking in with a very unique perspective, what are you seeing right now that fastener distributors are really wrestling with technology-wise? And how are you guys working perhaps with Marine to try and get some solutions in place? What's hot right now?
Well, it might be a better question for Dee than me, but I would say from my overall 30,000 foot perspective, I would say that mostly, if we go back 20 years, trying to sell somebody on an idea of having a handheld device in a person's hands in a warehouse was like blasphemy. I mean, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to spend that money to do that. But when we started showing, they could have best practices, cut out paperwork, not lose orders. I believe Marine Fasteners was the first company. I know you guys were the first company, D, that we took live on warehouse management.
Yep.
At the end of the first actual year of usage, the original founder of your company, Carl Brantley, sent me an email and said that literally he had $1,000 in losses that year, and it brought the losses down by, it was close to six figures, just in inventory valuation loss. And it was because of accuracy. So he was totally sold on it. And I have to say that I had to do a pretty decent sales job to get him to even put a couple of them in. We literally were at a point where he was sending me a note saying, can you loan me a few licenses so we can do a physical year end, so that we, and we partnered with him, and we did that. I think I may have ended up renting him a few licenses. But anyway, the bottom line was just, he was a forward thinker. It was not anything anybody in the industry was doing at that time, 20 years ago. And still today, there are plenty of people that are happy with their paper system, and, we don't push them too hard to move off. But I would say roughly, just like with a website, I found out the other day at our user conference, our national user conference, that of the 400 and some customers we probably have about 150 that are using full websites, B2B, B2C, e-commerce, all tied into INxSQL. And that was also slow in being adapted through the industry. And there are still people that don't trust it. I mean, I can remember working with a to be unnamed big company that was recently purchased, and they told me, we don't want to have any link up with computers because they can just shop us and look at our prices. And, I'm going back 20 years, but think about this now in today's day and age. Of course, you can shop and look at prices online. So, it really has been an antiquated industry. And as Dee mentioned, and I'll second that, and we've had to fight those battles as we move forward with customers. But those that do come in with the positive attitude, like Paul and Dee and the team at Marine, they have this opportunity in front of them because we partner with them. And in many cases, the functionality that many customers of our 400 and some customers in the United States are using, they had their genesis with Marine Fasteners.
Right. Well, you're mentioning or referring to this idea of an antiquated industry and all that. And, you said it, you guys, I didn't. But notice we took the fax machine number field off of our system years and years ago. So, I don't know, what does that say? But the model itself of the master importer, master distributor, moving down to a lower tier and all that. I mean, that's obviously been in flux ever since FCH has been around, ever since we've been part of this industry. So, and it's only intensifying. I mean, there's acquisitions happening all the time. So this industry is changing. Technology is aiding in that, certainly, and it's affecting it. And you mentioned AI earlier in the conversation. Dee, what is the, I don't know if you can give it all away, but I mean, certainly you can comment on the effects or the vision of AI from a Marine's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to find how we can reduce human error. I think that's a big part of ours. So, for example, if we can have a purchase order come through and have an automated process that can read that purchase order and enter from the data that's on that purchase order into INxSQL, so there's a reduction of human error on there. First and foremost, that's our goal. We want our customers to receive what they ordered and have it not be something that we flubbed up. So we're looking at opportunities like that. We're looking at opportunities to where we can have material test reports that can be automated and generated to customers in a timely manner and be accurate. So any of those processes that we can bring into place that reduces some of the human error, keeps the accuracy to what Bob alluded to before. It's no different really than the warehouse handheld devices. That's exactly what we're trying to go for. And it really has nothing to do with personnel. It actually streamlines their job. So now that they're able to go and do what they do best, and that's sell, do customer service, sell the product, and not have to, jump through hoops to go back and clean up a potential mistake in the process of it.
Okay, and so you're talking about and focusing on using data analytics to improve the customer experience. How are you guys actually selling that in the marketplace?
So we have customers that, the traditional model would be the VMI process. We have a little bit different model that we call CPS, two-bin system within the manufacturing facility. And basically what we're able to produce for our customers now is running totals monthly, weekly, quarterly from our data analytics team to say, hey, this is moving a lot faster than what you projected. This is moving a lot slower than what you projected. And during those quarterly business reviews, we're able to capture all of that data, or sometimes if the customer wants it on a monthly or weekly basis. So they have visibility in their production line. Let's face it, it's a fastener. It's not at the top of their radar. So it's our job to say, hey, here's what's going on. We know our business well. We want to know your business well, and here's how we can help you. And so providing all of that data might actually cause a reaction internally for them to say, oh, I had no idea that we were using this part X amount weekly or monthly. Here's what we need to do to fix it. Is it because of something that's happening on the line? Is it because of an increase in production? And so just all of that information flow to them. It's just a partnership, and it's valuable because it's their business, and it's just something that we do to provide for them.
I think the biggest thing that we run into is that everybody wants a lot of things to happen in their software. And then here's what happens day one. We go in and let's say we replace a competitor system that wasn't working for some reason for this customer. They get to day one and they go, okay, blinders on. I have to generate invoices and I have to, be able to count my inventory, and I need to be able to source my product, and I need, so purchasing and do all my accounting and everything. And then we have a team that will come back in later, and Marine's taken advantage of this, especially under Dee's tutelage. He's looked at how do I take all these tools that we have in INxSQL, and instead of just throwing it, willy-nilly out to my customers, how do I get them the best experience possible? And in doing that, I can upsell. So instead of selling this part over here that's a penny, I can maybe sell it for 2 pennies, and nobody's going to gripe because they're dealing with the best in the business, and we anticipate and know what they're going to need. I have to tell you that I do go way back in talking to people in the fastener industry, and I once was on site down in Tampa, Florida with a prospective customer, and I'm with the general manager, and he just waves his arm at this whole bunch of bins and says, look at all this stuff. He says, I got all this stuff around here. And so somebody goes to buy something from Heads and Threads, and I'm dating myself. And bottom line is it's $1,500 for free freight. So we know we need $700 worth of product. What do I do with that other $800? And a lot of times they're just buying $800 worth of stuff and don't know what they have or what they need coming up. And so they end up with a bunch of junk on shelves. And this guy told me, he says, Bob, you've heard of FIFO, you've heard of LIFO. I said, yes, inventory, valuation methods. He says, well, I'm on the fish method. And I said, fish? I haven't heard of that one. He says, first in, still here. So I said, well, we've got to get you off the fish method. And, so early on, no AI really involved. Bottom line, bunch of formulas allowing, people to look at EOQ and whatever other methodologies they want to look at and tone that number, that dollar amount they have out in their warehouse down. And, if we walked in and somebody had $3 million in inventory and they really could do the same job with $2 million, we were putting $1 million back in the owners or in the company's pockets. And that, that's where it started for us. We've dealt with many consultants over the years. We still work with Jason Bader from the distribution team. So I want to give him a shout out. Bottom line is, that he helps us stay on path as well as our customers, of course, and they're the best resource for us to say, hey, here's a good way for a best practice that's not going to cost you more people and time, and it's going to save you and your customers money. And then, D, your people look the best every time because of the upsell capability you have to be I guess we used to call it just in time, but like a just in time inventory for these people, and they don't have downtime on their line or anything that's caused by that little fastener not being there in the right bin at the right time.
Exactly. I mean, that's our goal. I mean, we want to know not just our business. We want to have a value-added service for them to know their business inside and out, to know what they need when they need it, and it's smooth. There's no disruption, and pretty much generating those reports that we pull from INxSQL to give to our customers. Say, hey, here's what the last week has looked like. Here's what the last month or quarter has looked like. That's really invaluable for them because now they know, man, Marine's got it. They know what they're doing. I don't have to worry about it.
Well, Marine knows what it's doing, and as we just heard, Bob, you guys over there in INxSQL know what you're doing. You've been doing it for a long time. It's probably a good moment to make note of the fact that we're at a big year for your company, aren't we? The announcement for the 20th anniversary of INxSQL. What is it, May? Congratulations to you and your team.
It's actually this month, yep.
Fantastic. Perfect timing, huh?
Yeah, it's like you worked that in there perfectly. And I appreciate it. 20 years is not something that was a target ever for us. So it's just evolved and we've reached that. But, now the smarter and future generation of owners in our company, us being a family and key employee owned outfit. And that's the succession plan, when they get rid of the old man here. And the bottom line is their idea of when I'm going to step out and my idea might be a little different, but it might be off by a zero. I'm not sure. But, that said, we're not selling like a lot of our competitors have done. The merger and acquisitions that have happened in the industry in software companies is unbelievable, just like it is in the actual distributors and manufacturers. And so I kind of called it all along the Pac-Man wars. But the problem with a software company doing it is the data that they have, the thing that they sell is their customer list, and those customers, those are living, breathing organizations that have people that have to put food on the table for their families. And some of these decisions that are made because, one guy or a room full of people have said, hey, we're going to sell our company to these guys, and we don't really care what happens to our customers after the fact. I just can't live with that. I mean, I literally was the guy sitting in front of Carl Brantley back in the day and, selling them on going with us and telling them, hey, I have no intention of selling this to, the Profit 21s or, in today's world, Epicor. I'm not going to do that because we're going to partner with you and we're going to bring, an organization in play that you can rely on for the lifetime of our business and your business. And so far, that's ended up being 20 years.
And well, congratulations again. You did a good job of explaining that. I saw the recent full-page ad you had in Link Magazine with that, and that was a nice touch, I thought.
Thanks. Yeah, I just figured, why don't I just put the truth out there in an ad and let people decide for themselves? Do they want to make that move again, to another company that did just like, one of my Distribution One is a company that was sold to a bigger outfit, and so there are, to the count of my database, 150, 170 different fastener distributors out there that are going to be affected in one, some way, shape, or form. Distribution One's, I don't remember what they call their software, but the Distribution One application will not be the surviving application. So it puts people back out in the market, and we're already dealing with, quite a few of those. So.
Well, you mentioned the upcoming generation and all that. I'll take a moment here to mention that Rob Reynolds, many people in the listening audience know Big Country from the golf course and the meeting room. But so there was a little bit of a snafu on the last episode. I don't know if you guys got wind of it, but they were out there. Let's see, it was Rob, and I know that Brian Wheeler was also on the team, and I'm remiss here because there were two other people. But anyway, they took first place at their Mel Kirshner Memorial, and somehow there was a typo made in the reportage there that was handed off to us, so we reported it as third place. But there was something clearly wrong because on LinkedIn there was a photo of them holding up the first place trophy, which we noted. So I'm glad at least we kind of scratched our heads on the air, but congratulations on bringing it home, man.
Hey, I used to win a few of those things. I'd get with the Truckee brothers or Steve Dunham or, some of my good customers, and we'd go out and have some fun and we might win. Now they got all these, young bucks that hit the ball 300 yards. And, so I send my giant killer in there. Rob's former captain of his Division I college golf team. And, he even tried to make it as a pro back in the day, but ended up coming to work for us. And I guess we're the better for it. And maybe even his family. You start looking at the lifestyle. He's got a good friend that's on the PGA Tour. And, they can make a lot of money. His buddy's made, I think, about $16 million over the years. But, he's a journeyman and he does a lot of travel and ended up buying a motorhome, and he and his wife drive all over the country. And anyway, long story short, I'd say, Rob's got a little bit more stable life than that. So it's a good thing. And, speaking of that, Rob recently was promoted to our VP of Sales. Our longtime VP of Sales, Keith Jones, retired at the end of the last year. And we're moving forward like there's no tomorrow. And I have to say that maybe Keith and I were getting a little tired because having these young guys, pushing me. And, we need you to talk to this prospect and whatever. I'm realizing that we're probably going to have a record sales year this year. And, regardless of anything happening in the industry or whatever. So that's kind of the idea that I mentioned earlier. We're better off, with the blinders on and just doing what we do.
Well, Bob, I would like to congratulate you on 20 years personally. First of all, for having us on board for so long, all these years. And second of all, for really just being open to some of the new ideas that we've been throwing out recently, especially. Your team's navigated that well. They've been receptive to some of the things that I'm really pushing our team to do. And so it's been good. So I want to say congratulations to the INxSQL team for sure.
Thanks.
What should we be watching out for from Marine Fasteners, D, as we wind her down here?
Watching out for, one of the things that I'm super excited about for the back half of the year is our sales team, Jose Espejo is my chief sales officer. He attends a lot of shows and conferences, and they just got back from Las Vegas from a show. And one of the first things he said to me was the place was packed. So that's encouraging to me, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what we started off the show today talking about with the FDI. I think the production side is getting back to a norm, so to speak, to where people are able to attend again. And that's part of the reason why I said that we're really trying to diversify our portfolio. So that's exciting to me. I love making connections at conferences and shows. I'm definitely a people person. I'm an extrovert. And that's really what I thrive in, and Jose as well. And so that's encouraging. I would just say the back half of the year for us is really just being in front of our customers, our existing customers, but also being hungry to land some new business, because that's what it's about. We enjoy that and have fun doing it.
Well, you've always got the eye of the tiger. Keep going. And D. Ward, you are the CEO of Marine Fasteners, marinefasteners.com. Thank you for being here today. I'll see you at a few events over the summer, including the Rugged Nut Race, where you're a mud racer. Don't forget about that. Hope you're training.
I am, actually.
Very good. And Bob, you're beyond all that these days, but you're doing your own thing. Keep chugging. Congratulations again. That's INxSQL.com, INSQL software, 20 years strong. Thanks for being here, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it, as always.
It is fully threaded. We'll be back to close this one up in a minute. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Are you tired of empty promises from software vendors? Are you paying for support that you're not receiving? Is it time for another paid upgrade? There is a solution. INxSQL delivers quality software designed for the fastener industry at an affordable price with industry-leading support. Quality software, affordable pricing, industry-leading support. Only INxSQL can deliver all three. www.INxSQL.com.
At Worth Industry North America, we know that in today's world, you need a supply chain partner that you can depend on. We provide the products you need to keep your business moving. Data-driven inventory management solutions, industry-leading technology, and the global stability of the Worth Group, combined with an unrelenting commitment to local partnership. Discover superior supply chain security at www.worthindustry.com.
The U.S. Anchor brand has over 45 years of history, providing quality anchoring products sold through various distribution channels. The product range is comprehensive, including light, medium, and heavy-duty offerings, ideal for construction and industrial applications. Our flagship Ultra Wedge Plus Wedge Anchor has obtained the prestigious ICC-ES approval for cracked concrete and uncracked concrete, as well as the Miami-Dade County approval. The state of Florida, city of LA, and state of California have all approved the Ultra Wedge Plus. For more information on U.S. Anchor, visit brightonbest.com. Tested, tried, and true. We are Brighton Best.
Hey, this is Bob Baer with Avid Interfast, and now back to Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian, the interesting thing about the 20th anniversary of INxSQL is when we started off with FCH, that was in 06, they were really just getting started too. I mean, well, they'd been in business for a little while, but I just remember coming into the industry, looking around, it seemed like they were already a big thing then, and really they were just ahead of us. So we've been along on the ride with INxSQL software for a lot of their existence. Anyway, it's great to watch them succeed to the extent they have.
Right. Actually, we've had our connection to INxSQL, I think, for 16 years.
We didn't really hit it off in a big way right away, but things have a way of falling into place.
Yep, that's right.
like to thank Bob Reynolds of INxSQL Software for the great years and also for being on the podcast today, along with Dee Ward of Marine Fasteners, another great friend of the podcast. Thanks so much for being here, Dee. Matt Boyd of Parker Fasteners kicked everything off with us today. Of course, both these two gentlemen, Bry, are mud racers, so we'll see them at the Rugged Maniac out at the MWFA in August.
Yeah.
Friends everywhere, which is a good thing. Mike McNulty and another mud racer, John Kovatch, had the Fastener News Report for us today. Thank you, gentlemen. Well done. And Carmen Vertullo, as always, had the Fastener Training Minute. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, tested, tried, true, Brighton Best. Global Fasteners, quality the first time. Go Global, and Star Stainless. Right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded Radio is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, Fastener Fair USA, INxSQL Software, J-Lan Franco, Parker Fasteners, Solution Industries, 3Q Inc., Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry North America. Get with us anytime. We'd love to hear your comments, thoughts, and questions. The address there, ftr@fullythreaded.com. And the next episode, Bry, will be completely different yet again.
Oh, really?
That's right. We'll try to bring you some excellent show floor material. The lovely and talented Lynn Dempsey will be down there in Nashville with us. She always does such a fine job. We'll also jam in some other good stuff, too. Bunch of it is on the bubble right now, but it's going to be good.
And we'll all be remembering a fun show because the Fastener Fair show is a really fun show, okay?
A lot of energy building for this one. Of course, some of you are listening to it after it's already taken place, so always hard with these ones we drop right before the show, but thank you for joining us. We're going to put this one in the can and get the booth packed up because we're driving to this one.
Yeah, I know. Lynn and I are too.
So I'll meet you down there, Bry, and we'll meet you hopefully at our booth or at one of the bashes, the Country Music Hall of Fame, wherever it might be.
Yeah, don't hesitate. Stop by and say hello, okay?
And until then, for Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws, and we'll talk to you next time.
Till then.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse. Music provided by Audionautics.
I'm worried about how the president's handling the debt ceiling. He's ignoring it. He's walking us in to some type of debt problem because he's just ignoring the problem. I'm worried about the next generation. We're at 120% of GDP in debt. We've only been here during World War II. That means our debt's larger than our economy with another 20%. I'm worried about how the president's handling the debt ceiling.